Okay, everybody. Here we are. It is September the 18th, and I should get this uploaded same date this time. Yeah, you'll notice. Yeah, I know. I got it for my Halloween costume. The guy doesn't have a beard, so I don't know. You guys probably won't end up seeing it, but we'll see. Anyway, so we now have Venice, TIFF, and Telluride all behind us on the Oscar season this year. And generally speaking, for films yet to come out, there's really not too many that we can think of, or at least that I can think of right now, where we have an absolute 100% like question mark on the film because we haven't seen footage, we haven't really gotten much of a feeling yet for what kind of a movie it's going to be, or it hasn't screened. And really, at this rate, just looking at the list here one more time as we're kind of going through what's left here, She Said, I think, is really the only one, as well as there was one other one I was going to point out there, but it's A Man Called Otto. I don't think we've seen anything from that one yet, but everything else has either screened, has a trailer out, has some coming attractions coming out if it's like Amsterdam, which didn't take any of the festivals there. But yeah, generally speaking, we have at least a little bit of a feeling here on most everything. That we can, we have a little bit of a glimpse that we can look at and say, hey, this is how this looks. And She Said, unless I missed it, there might be a trailer out for that one I just didn't see. So, well, if that was the case, then give me a mulligan on that one. But anyways, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and also pull up here, because I didn't write down the film that won the Golden Lion at Venice. Which, again, as we've pointed out many times before, winning the Golden Lion at Venice, except if you're Shape of Water or Hamlet, it doesn't carry over to a Best Picture win. Sometimes you get nominated, as was the case with Joker and a couple other ones there. I want to say, what was the other one? We can look it up here as well, but let's see here. I need to remind myself the film that won the Golden Lion here. Let's see here. Here we go. So this year it went to All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. And this one is a documentary. And I don't know if it's actually been picked up yet, or has a release date yet, I should say. And it looks like Neon has picked it up. So it does have a distributor behind it. And it looks like it has to do with the AIDS crisis, stuff like that. I kind of looked up a little bit about it here, but and yeah, basically it was really well received at the festival there. It's 100% Rotten Tomatoes, just from I think 9 or 10 reviews. Nomadland also won here. Okay, so that's 3. We've had 3 in the last 80, almost 80 years, closer to 80 than 70 at least. Anyhow, but some other recent winners here. Roma was a Best Picture nominee, and then you have to go back to The Wrestler, which got a few nominations but was not a Best Picture nominee. Brokeback Mountain won here, which was a Best Picture nominee. So yeah, it can be kind of tough sometimes here to break through if you're not already an expected nominee. So All the Beauty and All the Bloodshed, we'll see if it can play for documentary. I haven't really done very much homework yet on that one for how that category is looking right now, but we'll see. I know we've got the sequel to Icarus that was at Telluride and was pretty well received there as well. So yeah, there probably are a couple other ones out there that I just haven't picked up on yet that do have some steam behind them, but we'll see. Okay, and then we have Telluride was technically next when we go chronologically here. And really with that one, there weren't... probably the biggest premiere there that we hadn't seen yet was Empire of Light, and then Women Talking being the two. Bardo was also playing at Venice. Bones and All played at Venice. Living, I believe, was at Venice and at TIFF. So that one hit all 3. And I believe that one... and maybe Tar were the only ones to hit all 3. And Tar actually might not have been at TIFF. I'm trying to look here real quick, and I didn't have it on my one list here for TIFF. And I'm pretty sure Living was also at Venice, was it not? Yeah, it was. Okay, so I think Living was the only one to hit all three. Surprised that Bardo was not on the list there for TIFF either. Because I remember Roma that year, I believe, hit like virtually every kind of film festival out there. All three of these. It was at New York. It was at basically everything. Maybe not AFI. AFI might be the one exception there. But even that one, sometimes they lean more toward like blockbuster films. Sometimes you have stuff like, I believe, Big Short. And my allergy is kind of bad today, so sorry about that. But a Big Short, if I recall correctly, was it was like the opening or closing film at AFI that year. So once in a while we'll see one that doesn't, on the surface look like a huge Oscar contender, kind of launch from there like that one did. Okay. And then we had TIFF, which just wrapped up today, and we got our TIFF Audience Award prizes handed out. And the audience winner, Steven Spielberg and The Fabelmans took first. First runner-up, in other words, second place, was Women Talking, and third place, or second runner-up, was actually Glass Onion. So I think Netflix will be happy with that, and I think we'll probably get into it more so later, but right now at this rate, I think there's already an argument out there that Glass Onion might actually be Netflix's biggest contender this year at the Oscars, because I think Bardo came in with really high expectations to Venice and to Telluride, and it just has, so far, the critics are extremely mixed on it, which, again, I always say, if you're going as an Oscar contender, you want either all the critics on your side or none of the critics on your side, and you're going to have, I always, I name like the 50 Shades, Blue Lagoon, Endless Love, some of these films where they have one particular category they're shooting for, and no matter how bad the movie is, it can get into that category, or even you could even argue, even though it had, I guess, more of a mixed reception than a negative reception, a Hillbilly Elegy a couple of years ago, where Glenn Close was just always, the consistent one there. Amy Adams did get a couple slots here and there, though, through the season, so to be fair to that one. But yeah. But yeah, White Noise, even though that one I think had a really good reception and was the opening film to Venice there, it feels like the word of mouth on it is it might not hit everywhere with the Academy, so that might be like screenplay only, or maybe screenplay and an acting nomination kind of territory for that one. And I can't think, what was the other, can't remember what the other Netflix one was. I thought there was one other Netflix one. Blonde was at a couple of them here, or at least at Venice. And that one, again, I believe it's out now, so I'll have to catch up with that one as well, all 3 hours of the movie. But that one, I think, for the runtime and for the subject matter and stuff, it also doesn't really sound like it's a huge Best Picture potential. We'll get into what I think it could be nominated for here in a minute, because I did, after a couple of things here and after everything at all three festivals and everything, I did do a lot of switching around with my predictions as well, so we'll definitely give updates to that one. Okay, so yeah, once again we had All the Beauty and the Bloodshed be our Golden Lion winner. TIFF Audience Award went to Fabelmans. Second place was for Women Talking. Third place was for Glass Onion. Okay, so now just to get into the reception of the films here, as I have, also a cord wrapped around my leg right now, which was really bugging me. These, I guess, are roughly in alphabetical, somewhat. A couple of them had some different screenings or were out of competition, so I put those in a different list here. Starting with the stuff that was at Venice, Banshees of Inisherin. I'm still going to fuck that name up until I hear it 6 or 7 times from different people. Inisherin, I don't know, we'll go with that one. Again, my Irish blood is not coming through. I'm trying to pronounce that title. But this is Martin McDonagh's new film, and really, this one is probably one of the 2 or 3 best reviewed out of the festivals, as far as not only Rotten Tomatoes reception, but their average rating. 8.6 out of 10 with 100% from Rotten Tomatoes. And we also, by the way, for Venice here, it is worth noting that the acting prizes, we did see... actually, let me bring it up here. I'll bring out... we'll go over the rest of the awards that they handed out there. At Venice this year, which is, where is it? Down here somewhere. Okay. We had The Silver Lion was also, by the way, we should note, went to Bones and All. But the 2 acting prizes, though, I think there's a fair argument here that we could see one or both of these contenders, maybe not be front runners, but definitely be pretty solid across the field this year. Best Actress, Cate Blanchett for Tar, and it really sounds like she's got a winning big performance in that one. Arguably, she could be up for her 3rd win this year after the reviews there. Colin Farrell won Best Actor for Banshees here, and it also picked up a prize for Screenplay. And so with that, so Banshees, I think, really came out really well here. It was also at TIFF, and I think that was it. Yeah, just at TIFF otherwise. So at first, though, I do have to say, because I didn't initially have it into my Best Picture lineup. We'll see. I'll reveal it all in a bit here. But I think I'll reveal which ones I dropped first before I reveal which ones I put in with that. But for Banshees, I think I'm just going to call it Banshees just because it'll be easier. I think with this one, initially, one of my feelings, even though I thought about it like probably 10 minutes before I started this video, and I was like, well, that doesn't make sense, though. If my argument should make sense. My first thing was, okay, it sounds like it's just a 90-minute movie, or roughly about that, like an hour, 40-minute movie, somewhere in that runtime, of just 2 guys on a beach having an argument. That's what you get from the poster, at least. Which, that can be a fun thing. I mean, maybe it wasn't like my absolute favorite, but Malcolm and Marie from a couple of years ago, which got a lot of shit from critics, more for, some politics around the making of the film and the makeup of the directing or writing on the film, which I'm still not over. People are fucking idiots, I swear to God. But anyways, with that one, I felt like I really like when you have some of those films, like or Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf being another one, where it's like I really like when you have those kind of closed set type movies there. They don't always work 100% for me. Like One Night in Miami, I was like, yeah, it was good, not great. I haven't gone back to see that one since. But yeah, with this one, Banshees, though, I was like, okay, is that a movie that the overall Academy voters will go for? And I think if this was in an era, say like 2015, 2016, where it was the up to 10 nominees and you had to get 10% of the overall number 1 vote, or however it broke down there, I forget the exact wording of it, but it was basically that. I don't know, that one I think would have struggled to get to 10% of number 1 votes. I think, even though I'm sure there were people in the writers branch, actors branch, possibly a couple in the directors branch, on down the line there, that would have still put it number 1. I don't know if it would have gotten enough to reach, that required percentage. So I could have seen it missing a couple key categories in that time. Though if it was the up to 10, say in 2019 or 2020, when we began to see more European-born voters start to make, be a bigger percentage of the makeup of the Academy overall, then I think we could have definitely seen a more strong argument for this one getting enough votes here. And now that we're in a field where it's just the 10 most voted for films for Best Picture get in, yeah, this one now I can say, yeah, that argument just doesn't hold water for me anymore. So that probably gives away what I did with it for Best Picture, but yeah, we'll get there. So next up is Bardo, which is the new one from Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. 55%, 5.3 out of 10 average rating. So this one, unfortunately, I think is one of the biggest casualties this year for some of these higher expectation films that just didn't stick the landing. Now, at 55%, that's still technically a majority of critics do like it. It does have that rotten, designation from Rotten Tomatoes. Newer watch too, so it likes to beep a lot. But anyhow, with this one though, I feel like with Iñárritu's last works, generally speaking, they've been in that 90 to higher 80s and on the Rotten Tomatoes thing. It's funny enough though, because I have a couple of the reviews I read said, yeah, there's a little pretension here this time to Iñárritu's directing job, and he, it feels like he's working on this big epic scale and stuff, and it maybe is not as grand or epic a story as we're led to believe. Which is weird, because I remember I was talking with somebody when The Revenant was getting ready. I think it was actually right before The Revenant started to screen. Not necessarily released like in December, but it was like, I think there were some screenings in October or November for that one. I don't know if it was just for Academy voters or if it was just for cast and crew or what. But I remember one guy talking about it. He said, "Yeah, this looks like an ego project. It looks like a very much a vanity type project." So he was very much predicting that The Revenant was not going to be high on the list for Best Picture. He was not going to repeat for director. He was not going to be, a big player that year. Turns out he won back-to-back years. There you go. But weird, though, because that vanity kind of feeling there, it feels like that showed up with Bardo. It kind of finally caught up, if that was the case. So this one, with so many things going on with this one, I just don't think this is going to make the list right now. I could be wrong. It could bounce back. It could, really do well at some of these upcoming, it would have to start at some of those, more, what's the word I'm looking for? We get to like SAG, like the more industry-based awards, SAG and DGA, PGA. I think it would have to make a splash at some of those and get in for some key nominations there, I think, before I start really highly looking at this one again. Let's see. Blonde was next. 63%, average rating is 6.1 out of 10. Generally, I think the word of mouth on this one is Ana de Armas is incredible. The rest of the movie has fits and starts. Some people definitely complained that it was overlong. And just some had just problems with just the general story they were telling. But overall, it sounds like Ana de Armas is going to be their big player for this film. Which, you could argue from the beginning that was generally our perspective. It would have taken, if the film had been, maybe a little better received, then maybe you could have made an argument that, okay, maybe this can make the Best Picture list as well, or maybe be an outside contender for like screenplay or some of those tech categories and stuff. But right now, it just seems like Ana de Armas is probably going to be the main focus for that film. Then we have Bones and All from Luca Guadagnino. I don't think this is as much a spiritual sequel to Call Me By Your Name as I originally thought it was. This one, it's an 8 out of 10 for the average rating and 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. Generally with this one, I'm not really sure where the Academy is going to go with it. With the subject matter being partially about cannibalism, I don't know how many members of the Academy are going to feel comfortable voting for it. Definitely this is going to have to lean on some of those middle-aged to younger voters. I don't know how many older voters who say might have liked Call Me By Your Name, even if they don't agree, with the same-sex relationship. This one you do have a male and female relationship going on there, but a heterosexual relationship on this one. But with the cannibalism thrown in and all the jokes about how Armie Hammer, whose personal life I guess does involve some stuff with that, or some possible stuff with that, alleged stuff. I don't think it's been 100% proven yet. Funny that this is the last film he did prior to this that kind of got a lot of attention was Call Me By Your Name from the same director. So I think there were a couple articles that came out about that time too. But anyways. So this one, I wasn't, I didn't put it in for Best Picture right away, but I'm like, at this rate, I'm like, I think it'll be an interesting movie to watch. We'll see if it can, again, maybe be a player in some of those tech categories, but right now I don't see it as a large threat. All right, next one we're going to jump to is The Son. Florian Zeller's follow-up to The Father, part of this a trilogy of plays that he wrote. So with this one, 54% and 5.5 out of 10 average rating. And I got to say, this, I think, does take the cake this year. Like we said, it happens almost every year. There's one that we go into that we think, and the filmmakers, and I think the studio thinks, they're like, we got a winner here, and it gets really, really highly anticipated, and everybody gets excited for it, and it comes out, and it just doesn't work. And I don't know, again, with 54%, that still means majority of critics are liking it. It does have a designated rotten rating at this time. And generally, but very few critics I saw said this is in the same neighborhood as The Father. Almost everybody else was like, it's diminishing returns. Just nowhere near the emotional impact. Hugh Jackman, I think, kind of escapes some of the criticisms of the film. Generally speaking, a lot of people say this is up there with his best performances to date. Potentially could be his best performance to date. But arguably, yes. With this one, I think he is going to be, again, I think 90% of the contention for this film going forward is going to be getting him a Best Actor slot. Otherwise, doesn't seem like this one's going to fire very well. It could still sneak in there for adapted screenplay since that field is not as strong as the original screenplay side. But generally, yeah, I think this one is, unfortunately, Sony Pictures Classics also has Bones and All. I don't think either one of these two are as sure a bet for Best Picture as, especially The Son, as we thought, say, 2 to 3 weeks ago, or even 4 weeks ago when I did, around that time when I did the original video there. So, which is too bad. Again, this was one of my most anticipated for sure, and I'm still, obviously, I'll still see it when it comes out and everything, and I'm still going to go in and hope that it's just a solid movie. Again, no matter what happens, I always say I go into the movies with the same expectation: don't suck. Whether you've got a lot of Oscar potential behind you, or you're just a fun Friday night movie, it doesn't matter. I just don't suck. Just don't waste my time. So that's my expectation with that one, as with all films, again. Okay, almost on the polar opposite side of that, we have Tar, which is at 100%, an 8.4 out of 10 average rating. So again, this is in the top 3 or 4 for the average ratings, at least, for films coming out of the festivals here. And, yeah, again, 100%, everybody just cannot shut up about how great Cate Blanchett is in this role. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue at this point, without having seen the rest of the contention there, it's hard to argue that Cate Blanchett is not going to be extremely likely to take over as frontrunner for Best Actress at this point. And it's, you look at it, it's a pretty selective list right now for actresses who win more than 2 Academy Awards. You got Meryl Streep, you got Frances McDormand, you've got Katharine Hepburn, and I think there's one more that I'm forgetting about right now, but maybe one more I'm forgetting about. But overall, yes, I do have to say, yeah, I very much she's in a class as an actor where you can say she's worthy of a title like that, getting 3 acting wins, absolutely. She's very much a one of those examples I can think where I'm like, yeah, makes sense. So yeah, Todd Field, I think, has kind of he could possibly be a play for director on this one. The screenplay is a big threat as well. I think other than that, I don't really know if there's any tech categories that this one is specifically going to be a good bet for, since it has to do with the music conducting and stuff. I'm sure there's a couple orchestra sequences and stuff, so if it really strikes hard, maybe the sound category can be in play. I'm trying to think what else in the tech categories it would go for. Again, if it's kind of has a little bit of period to it, maybe costume design and production design could be in play, but I don't think it's that. I think it's a more contemporary set film. Even with that, though, if it's, you got a lot of tuxedos and a lot of dresses and a lot of all that stuff, because it's, orchestral stuff and it's conducting stuff, which means generally they're well dressed up. It still could be a costume player for sure. But yeah, I think this one, it'll definitely be those kind of top 8 categories where it's kind of shooting for. The Whale is up next, Darren Aronofsky's film with Brendan Fraser. 69%, 7.1 out of 10 for average rating. But again, I think the strongest word of mouth on this film is absolutely going to be Brendan Fraser's supposedly just absolute knockout performance here. Which again, you tell me this a year or two ago, I would have said, Brendan Fraser, really? He kind of seems, nothing against him, because I know his personal life, he's gone through a lot of shit. But, as far as career-wise, he seems a little washed up. It seems like he's had his heyday, and now the comebacks, it's just not triggering yet. Now it feels like, okay, he's got this, he's got a Scorsese movie coming out, supposedly next year, with the Sunflower, whatever that was, Sun Moons, whatever the fuck. It's DiCaprio and De Niro's with Scorsese, and I think Steve Zalian wrote the script on that one too. So yeah, probably an easy early bet there. But anyways, with this one though, I do think, yeah, Fraser I put ahead right away because I'm like, okay, that transformative stuff, I think definitely lends you toward at least that frontrunner status. Now I think after the film has screened at a couple of the festivals here and everything, yes, I do think that we are very much in the neighborhood of him being declared the early frontrunner when we get to the kind of November thing. Because again, I don't want to, when we get into that stage, that's when I say, okay, this is the front runner. Because in between now and then, a lot can change, release dates change and stuff. So, so I kind of hold off a little bit on saying, that they are technically now the front runner. But yeah, he has a lot of potential to get that when we get to that stage. But yeah, I think overall, though, the rest of the movie, I think people, it has its critics for sure here, as we see with the score and everything. So I think it's more complaints about like story and some of the writing supposedly might have a couple. Some people have a couple issues with it. A couple people talking about it being a little predictable and stuff. But overall, I think we can see some films like this where they have a knockout performance or two, even if their rating is a little lower and stuff. It's like they can still get in for Best Picture. So I think The Whale is still comfortably sitting there with a likely 3, 4, 5 nomination type range. Okay, then we had Noah Baumbach's new film White Noise, which is the opening film of Venice this year. 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, average rating is 7.5 out of 10. But generally speaking, I didn't hear a lot of critics that were totally out there singing its praises. It definitely feels like it's a weird spot because it's getting a lot of great reviews. Baumbach has been nominated before in the writing category, and I think for he was, I believe, producer on Marriage Story, so I believe he's gotten at least those 2 nominations, and I think maybe one other writing nomination in the past as well. So he's a previous nominee. Adam Driver, who's been nominated twice before, is in there. Greta Gerwig, who's been nominated a couple times, is in there. Don Cheadle, who's been nominated before, he's in there. It's like, it generally feels like this is one that should be, after the reviews and stuff, and after it's generally good reception, feels like it should be in a spot where it's like, hey, that's a Best Picture nominee. It's up for screenplay. It's up for an acting prize. It's up, potentially going to be up for a couple other things. But right now, I'm not getting a lot of sense of excitement about it, which is really bizarre. But yeah, we'll see. Right now, I'm not really sure what to do with it. So that's that one. Moving on, Don't Worry, Darling, which I was a little skeptical about going into it, and I'm still open to how it's going to turn out, but based off the reviews, outlook is not good. 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I believe is the lowest of any of the films on the list here today, of the ones we're going to talk about. Average rating is still 5.4 out of 10. But yeah, this one, I think Warner Brothers, had high expectations for it, with Olivia Wilde in the director's chair and stuff. It felt like this is one that maybe could get some steam to it, but it really seems that that negative reception is just not gonna help it at all. I think we do have Florence Pugh being probably the biggest possibility for a nomination out of the film. And even then, I think she had one other one, The Wonder, which I have listed here somewhere, I think, because that played at one of them. Was it Telluride? It was one. Okay, I guess I didn't write it down. But that one I don't think had a great reception either. Let me just really quick double check that one. That one I don't know as much about the film. I don't know if it might not even have a release date yet, but 76%, average rating is 6.4 out of 10. We'll see, because I think Florence, when she was nominated for Little Women, she did have a couple other films out that year. She kind of been gaining steam as an actress and everything up to that point, and it wasn't a Best Picture nominee. Right now, I don't think it's likely that we're going to see Don't Worry, Darling nominated for anything else. I don't think The Wonder is really circling too many possible nominations outside of some of those tech categories, maybe. So, I think that one, again, is a pretty kind of a crash and burn. And again, my personal expectation for what I thought would happen, I didn't think it would be like this. I thought it would be closer to like a 50 to 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I think when generally, we might see that go up as more critics start to view the film here in the coming week. It comes out this Friday, so we'll see how it does there. And I still think the audience is still interested in this one. I think the box office will be halfway decent at least. Let's see. The last one I have here that was, and by the way, Don't Worry, Darling, and Living, the other one I'll talk about here, both of these were out of competition for Venice. Living is at 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. Average rating is 8 out of 10. Again, I think Bill Nighy is going to be the big target that they're shooting for in this one. Definitely kind of a lifetime achievement type nomination. Even though he's been in good and great stuff before, and I think he's definitely got a couple possible nominations in his future if he gets the right vehicle and stuff. But I think with this one, yeah, I think it's really going to rely on getting him in. Otherwise, I'm not sure what else it's shooting for, but I think that's going to be the big takeaway. And this one, I believe, had screened before as well. So, yeah, I think it continues to impress audiences at least with his performance. And the overall movie, I think people are liking, too. Okay, moving on to Telluride, that we'll do that one next. And with this one, we only have 3 films that we... well, actually 4. I'll include Empire of Light in this one, since that one did screen here at Telluride first before I got to TIFF. But TIFF, we had already had the list beforehand, so I wrote that one up there. Okay, Armageddon Time played at Telluride. This one was also had premiered already. 89%, average rating is 6.9 out of 10 for the film. This is James Gray's new film. Overall, I feel like this one right now kind of feels, again, like White Noise, kind of mixed in the shuffle right now. I don't see a lot of people that are saying it's high up there on their Best Picture list. If anything, it could shoot for an acting category or 2. But yeah, this one I think right now it's kind of mixed in the shuffle, even though it does have some pretty good reviews on it. Then we'll go to Empire of Light. This one, 52%, average rating is 6.2 out of 10. So maybe not the follow-up to 1917 that Sam Mendes was hoping for here. Generally, though, I think the biggest buzz, the biggest landing here with this film, the biggest talking point was Olivia Colman's performance, which again people have said, even though she's gotten 3 nominations in the last 4 years, if that's the right math. the Favorite, The Father, and then last year with Daughter, The Lost Daughter. Yeah, The Lost Daughter. People, a lot of critics have said this is arguably her best performance. So that's kind of why I was like, okay, let me just put her in front runner for now for my list as kind of a placeholder. Yeah, I do have Cate Blanchett, by the way, moved up to 2nd place, not to give that one away entirely. But yeah, I think I'm just about ready to switch on that one myself. But anyways, that being said, yeah, generally, though, it feels like, again, some people are just like, it just wasn't for me. It feels like, with a couple other films out this year, one of them including The Fabelmans, excuse me, it feels like a lot of a couple other films there that are more self-reflexive, kind of about filmmaking films. A couple of those are hitting stronger this year. At least The Fabelmans probably being chief among them. But yeah. Still, though, I did like this trailer a lot. I still think the cinematography nomination is probably likely for this one, since it is Roger Deakins. And it's not like The Goldfinch, which was at like 9% on Rotten Tomatoes when that one came out. Plus, he already had 1917 in the can, so we knew that one was coming out. So, yeah. Let's see here. Moving on. Icarus, The Aftermath. That one just has 4 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes right now, but all 4 of them were positive. And I guess the average rating, would be 9 out of 10, because somebody gave it an A-, and that was the only registered actual score of the 4 reviews. But yeah, the first Icarus was a winner for documentary here a few years ago. We'll see. I would imagine Netflix also has this one, because I believe the first Icarus was Netflix. And I would imagine they're going to try to shoot for this one to also be a nominee this year. And then we have Women Talking, which is 88%. The average rating is 8.1 out of 10. And I think this one, the rating I think was actually out of Telluride was a little higher. I think we did have a couple of critics that were saw it at TIFF and weren't as big a fan of it as everyone at Telluride, evidently. So it was like 100%. The averaging was like an 8.9 or something, but it did drop a little bit with a couple negative reviews in there. But generally, yes, I think everybody was very, very pleased with this one as far as the actual film, the ensemble, for sure. I definitely think there's a possibility that this one, or Fabelmans, maybe Amsterdam, maybe She Said, or possibly Babylon. One of those, I think, is going to jump out to the lead there for SAG Ensemble this year. Glass Onion, I think, has a good shot of getting in for Ensemble. Might not win, but I think it's going to get in, or at least likely to get in at this rate. We're a little ways off from talking about SAG, by the way, but yeah, just talking about that. But yeah, generally, I think everybody was impressed with the performances in the film, and the storytelling, the direction from Sarah Polley. Seems like we're going to get another female director, at least her nominated this year. So yeah, so generally speaking, yes, I do think that one really scored strongly there. Okay, so moving on to what was at TIFF. I have this set up so we have like some of the gala screenings, I guess we're up first. The first one was The Greatest Beer Run Ever, which is the Peter Farrelly follow-up to Green Book. 42%, which average rating is 5.6 out of 10. I have to say this, though. Part of me is a little sus on these reviews, if you will. Here's the thing. I do think, like we saw with Bohemian Rhapsody, even though this hasn't been widely reported as of yet, I do think Bohemian Rhapsody, if you'll recall, when it came out, there were critics who said, I like the movie is a technically well-made film. I'm not giving it a positive review, though, because of who directed it. And they completely are failing in their job as a film critic when they do that. They absolutely do not understand what their job is. If you're reviewing, again, like we saw with Malcolm and Marie, when you're reviewing the politics around the movie, and you're more worried about giving a film a positive or negative review and getting backlash on fucking Twitter, that's when you should no longer be accepted as a film critic. And I just have a feeling, that because Green Book came out, and even though it was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes off the festivals, and everyone was excited about it at the time, it won the TIFF Audience Award, then it got a big target on its back. Then everybody's like, well, wait a minute. I think it needs to be more this when it comes to race relations. Why is this not directed by a black man or a black woman? Why this, why that? And it just got this huge target, and it still ended up winning Best Picture. And there were some, again, big controversies around the film as far as not working, or supposedly not having a great working relationship with the descendants of Don Shirley. Some previous tweets or conversations or current conversations with Viggo Mortensen, Peter Farrelly, and with another co-writer on the film, all of which exploded into big stories at the time, at least for a moment. Some of them went away, other ones stuck around. But I just feel like with this one, because it, again, already has a target on its back, because it's a follow-up to that, and people, generally speaking, were not happy with Green Book winning Best Picture, and again, they let the politics of it reign over everything else. I think some of them went into it knowing they were probably not going to give this one a positive review, even if it was as good as Green Book. Now, that's just a feeling I have. I can't back it up with anything so far. I haven't heard a lot more on it, but I'm just a little suspicious of that. Now, that being said, this is coming out here, I believe, in the next 2 weeks from I was going to say Amazon, but no, from Apple Plus. So we'll see soon enough whether or not this is a legit, like, hey, this is actually a good film, just the people at the festival just seeing what happened last time, and that Green Book got a huge boost after it was very well received, and kind of launched it into the Oscar race, even though when it was really just a, what's that one, beforehand. We'll see. We'll see if that's the case, or if it is truly, yeah, this just is not a great film. We'll see. And yeah, the fact, I think part of it too, that this one is coming out in September, that we're not hearing as much buzz about it, that it doesn't seem to have that caliber to it. I think that is also something we need to take into account here as well. I'm not going to, totally say that it's the former, that it is just the critics out to get this movie at first. And yeah, again, I'm going to go into it with an open mind and say, hey, is it a good movie or is it a bad movie? And that's, again, all I'm going to care about. But just on the surface here, I'm a little like, okay, let's wait until we get more critics in. Let's wait until more people see the film, and then we'll see. But for right now, as far as the Oscar chances, yeah, this one, I struggled at first to even think, what could it get in for outside of Best Picture unless it was going to, again, like Green Book, kind of surprise us that year. So, yeah, so that's that one. The Woman King was also at TIFF. This one I was very doubtful on, but it was the exact opposite of what I thought. 94%. It was at 100 for a long time there on Rotten Tomatoes. The average rating is 7.8 out of 10. This one is now released and was number one at the box office this weekend, about $19 million, which is a really good result compared to where we've been the last few weeks. And, yeah, it just seems like, again, With this one, I feel like Viola Davis is definitely getting a big boost here, and I think we forget she's been nominated 5 times previous, 4 or 5 times previously. I am gonna triple check that right now because she had Ma Rainey's here most recently. Of course, we had Fences, we had Doubt, and I feel like I'm missing one. The Help, of course, The Help, yeah. So 4-time nominee right now. And I believe she's also, if this happens to get in for Best Picture, I believe she's a producer on this film as well. Or maybe I just made that up. Hold on. Here we go. Yes, she is a producer. Okay, I thought I had heard that. Anyways, but yeah, it just generally feels like this one, though, very much got a big, really strong reception there at TIFF, and now I think that's translated over to audiences who have gone to see the film, and generally they've all liked it. So, okay, right now as far as Best Picture, again, I can see this one kind of struggling a little bit. It is an early release. Some of those just, they have the momentum and they can keep going. I don't know if this one will, though. Viola Davis, I think, she stands a very strong shot at getting nominated. But outside of that, and then maybe when we get into like costume design, production design, or possibly, we'll see, it's only a $50 million movie, but if visual effects, if there's not a lot of really strong contenders there, I mean, obviously Avatar is going to be in there, we know. Likely, we'll probably see Top Gun be close if it doesn't quite get in, at least. One or two of the Marvel films will probably be in there. So we'll see. But if that one does kind of not have a very strong, possibility that maybe that one can play in a weird way for that, or get like a supporting visual effects from the Effects Guild nomination at least. Okay, what do we have? 4 more, so we're almost there. All Quiet on the Western Front, the German remake of the film there. 100%, just 8 out of 10 average rating. Again, I think this one, the biggest one they're going to shoot for is international feature. I don't know, again, if it's going to have enough in it to break into Best Picture. But, yeah, let's just go with that for now. Next up is The Fabelmans. And this one is 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Average rating is the highest of all films on the festival, 8.7 out of 10, so it just edges out Banshees by a little bit there. But yeah, generally speaking, this one, I think right away everybody's like, oh yeah, this is not only one of Spielberg's very best, but you've got a really good acting contenders here, especially Paul Dano and Michelle Williams. All the technical stuff, everything with that looks great. So pretty much you can probably, maybe not etch in stone, but you can definitely put some money on it getting into quite a few of those tech categories as far as like cinematography, costume design, production design, score, editing, and so on and so forth. And there's just really just very few criticisms here and there. It's just everybody just generally really, really, really liked this movie. And the first trailer did come out, I think, right as it was screening or right before or after it had screened at TIFF. And yeah, the trailer, for myself, I was not as blown away with this trailer, I think, as some other people were. Definitely there was some intrigue there with the screenplay. Like, there's a couple of lines where he's like, the dad, I think supposedly his dad is talking to him. He's like, yeah, how's your hobby going or something? He's like, don't call it my hobby. And I'm like, I relate to that a little bit. Growing up, I did a couple short films and stuff, and it was like, it did feel, it was very much in a hobby, but it felt like it was more than that to me. So that feels like a pure, very pure line that probably did come from Spielberg at some point, literally out of his mouth. Michelle Williams just looks like a complete knockout for that supporting actress category. She looks like she has a dynamic role just from the page alone, and obviously, as we've seen her do before on screen, she can knock those out of the park. So I am 100% staying with her as my early pick for supporting actress. This feels like even Judd Hirsch, I think, whose role I'm not sure yet. I haven't heard what his role is. I think we've seen him kind of get bumped up a little bit in the possibilities for supporting actor. I wasn't really looking at him early on as a likely contender, but I think he is. He's now broken in the top 5 for supporting actor here on on Gold Derby. So we'll see. But yeah, just from the trailer, I'm like, yeah, it looks like he'll have a couple key scenes in there. So sometimes that's all it takes. But yeah, overall, this looks like a really good one. Glass Onion is up next, and the follow-up to Knives Out is at 88%, the average rating 8.2 out of 10. Right away, I think a lot of the first screenings did come out and say, yes, this is better than Knives Out. Some critics definitely did think it was an improvement on the first film, even though the first one was, like 95, 94% Rotten Tomatoes? Or maybe it was higher than that. Maybe it was closer to 97 or something. But still, that being said, the overall rating is lower on this one right now just because of how few people have seen it. But yes, overall it seems like, yep, the twists and turns for this one are kind of hard to see coming, and it's definitely in style and in tune with the first film. There was one critic that I just read their little byline there, and I was like, your criticism of the film doesn't make sense. I think I got what he was going for, but it just came across like a very, like, no, I think you missed the point of the thing, because he was talking about how Knives Out is, when it came out, kind of started a trend again in murder mysteries. We just saw one come out this weekend with the, is it See How They Run, which I saw the trailer for. I'm like, it doesn't look that great. But even though it had a pretty stacked cast in it, I'm like, it doesn't look like one that I'll love. No. So I was like, not very interested in that one. But anyways, with this one, and Amsterdam kind of looks like it has a little bit of intrigue to that one as well. But the critic overall was like, why isn't it like, and he named like movies that came out literally like in the last couple weeks. I think Bodies was one of them, which I was interested in seeing that one. I didn't quite get to it. But I was like, dude, Rian Johnson started making this movie like as the pandemic started, like, or at least in the writing process. It's like, no, I get where the critic was going with it, where it's like, hey, you want, kind of like the way Knives Out kind of this whole kind of subgenre kind of resurfaced because of it. It felt like, like maybe with this new one, you can do something else with it. But it's like, well, as a sequel, though, you have to retain some of the original. You have to retain some of the sense of it. So I just did not really get that, or definitely did not agree with that criticism for sure. And that's having not seen the film. Maybe I'll see it and be like, I was underwhelmed by it, but I don't know. Also, the trailer is out for that one, and I'm like, yeah, it looks fun. And the first Knives Out was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And really, I think that's the only expectation you can go into it with and say, hey, just, again, don't suck. And hopefully be fun. All right, and then Triangle of Sadness is the last one I'll mention here. 68% on Rotten Tomatoes. Average rating is 7.5 out of 10. I think Woody Harrelson's bid for supporting actor was really the only, like, one takeaway I had from this one. And this one I haven't read as closely, the reviews, but yeah, I don't know how many people were high on its chances for Best Picture prior to this, but it seems to have taken a little bit of a drop after its kind of, mixed to positive reaction, we'll say, just because of the score there. All right. So that's your scorecard and stuff from the three early fall festivals, TIFF, Telluride, and Venice. All right, let's go ahead and jump into here. One other thing before we go into updated predictions. It's going to be very key that we say this first before we get to it. The first trailer, and I think poster as well, is out for Babylon, which is Damien Chazelle's follow-up to First Man. It's his fourth film. This is, it's a Hollywood epic, kind of talking about some of the early Hollywood days set in the 20s when the movie industry was going from silent film to talkies. And I have to say this. I might be against the grain here. I might be all alone on an island here. This is the worst goddamn trailer I've seen in a long time. This trailer, for me, did not work. This turned me off to this movie more than any trailer has turned me off to a film in a long time. A long time. Wow. And I'm being dead serious here. This really does not look good. This does not look like a film I would see. I feel like I'm kind of almost contractually obligated to see it because it's going to be a bigger contender there. But man, I can see this coming out and just not being very good. It very much, at least from the style of the trailer here, it has like a Baz Luhrmann. Funny enough, we were talking about it because Elvis is out this year too. But one of his film, Elvis. It has that kind of kinetic pace to it. And for me, that doesn't always do it for me. Baz Luhrmann is something I have to take in smaller doses. When The Great Gatsby was coming out and stuff, and I was like, I finally saw it, I think it was out on Redbox or something, and I was like, I kind of had to almost mentally prepare because I had seen some clips of Moulin Rouge and stuff, and I'm like, wow, I don't know if this is for me or not. It's like it's kind of all over the place. And with this, with Great Gatsby, it kind of, again, had some beats to it that were like that. And I felt like overall I was liking the movie a little better when it wasn't as in your face all the time. This looks like it's in your fucking face all the fucking time. And I'm really not looking forward to an experience like that in the theater, especially when it's over 3 hours long. Now, that being said, maybe just the kind of overdose of the trailer with doing all that stuff, maybe that was just the way the trailer is. And again, everybody else that I've heard talk about this trailer talked about how much it was one of the best trailers they've ever seen. Maybe not ever, but definitely one of the better ones in the last couple of years. Stuff like that. Not for me. Not for me. No. I don't want to say I'm dreading this film, but it's toward that territory now where it's like, oh my heavens. Yeah. And it very much has a more R-rated mentality than I thought it would, which I have to say, frankly, for the studio, for Paramount, who outside of Top Gun, Maverick, they've really been in kind of the crosshairs of some of these other bigger companies right now, like Sony or potentially Disney or some of these other ones, where they could be up for being bought out. And I think the launch of Paramount Plus, I think, definitely prolonged that a little bit. And it's like, okay, well, it actually, I think, because I thought Paramount Plus was going to be like some of these other streaming ones, like CNN Plus, which shut down like a month later. Or a couple of these other ones. What was it? Shudder was another one? Or no, the Shudder's still up. What was the other one that shut down? Like literally like a month after it came out. I can't remember which one it was, but there's a couple of them that have just come out and they've had maybe not high expectations as a streaming service, but they've been like, oh, is this the next big streaming service? And it just crashed, absolutely crashed and burned. I was scared that would happen with Paramount, but no, it seems to be holding its own right now, at least on the surface there. But otherwise, I'm like, Paramount, they needed hits. They needed hits this year. Definitely Top Gun, I think, gave them a lot more breathing room in the bank, for sure, to finance some more films. You know, I think the next two Mission Impossibles will make them plenty of money, for sure. But yeah, with this one, I'm not sure what the thinking was. Because R-rated films like that, over 100, I think it was like $120 million production budget, I don't know if you're going to make that money back. At least not domestically. I don't know, even with big stars like Margot Robbie and or Robbie. Some people pronounce it Robbie. Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt and a few others in there. I just don't know if this one is a surefire, like opens to 40 million when it goes wide, and then it keeps going from there and reaches higher heights on the box office. There, we saw First Man not do extremely well at the box office, and that kind of ended up hurting it at the Oscars. I would argue. So. Yeah, I was kind of turned off by the trailer. In all honesty, I was just like, oh my heavens, this is not what I thought I was getting into, for sure. Okay, so with that being said, let's redo the list here for Best Picture and go from there. Fabelmans, I'm still holding strong at number 1 right now. Women Talking, I did not have in before. I've bumped it all the way up to number 2. I think just the very strong reaction to it, the fact that it does have a female director. And definitely we've seen a real push here in the last few years where it's like we want to consistently get women directors in there. I think is definitely going to help the film overall, not only in that category, but also for Best Picture. Amsterdam, I'm holding number 3. I'm holding out hope on that one a little bit. I'm still bullish on that one. We'll see. I supposedly there's been a couple of private screenings for it for some of David O. Russell's family and friends and stuff. I haven't heard any of the news off that, which is probably good. But I believe it's also going to start screening relatively soon here. They bumped it up a month. It was supposed to come out in the beginning of November. Now it's coming out in, I believe, like 3 weeks in that neighborhood there somewhere. So supposedly screening should start for that one, probably if not this week, early next week. So I think we'll know pretty quick here within the next 10 days or so. We'll know whether this is David O. Russell does have another contender on his hands, or if this is like Joy, going to be a big, like, oops, nope, not for me. In fourth place, I have Everything Everywhere All at Once, which seems to be really sticking around. Fifth place, She Said, which we're going to see premiere here in a few weeks at the New York Film Festival. Banshees, I have at number 6. I've put that one in now. Number 7, I have The Whale. Number 8, I have Top Gun Maverick. Clear down in ninth place now, Babylon. I'm still putting it in just because I'm like, I look at the other stuff and I'm like, I can't put that one. I don't, yeah, that, and so on and so forth. And then Empire of Light I have still at number 10, but that one I think would be the first to go. So The Sun I dropped, Bardo I dropped, White Noise I had in there for a little bit. I've dropped that one. Yeah. So for some other potential nominees, Tar I think people are looking at as Best Picture nominee. I think that one's close. That one's probably definitely in the 11, 12, 13 range. The Sun maybe can stick around. Once it goes out for general release, we'll see if maybe some of the fanfare comes back, if some of the, not only audiences, but especially if the industry comes back and says, wait, we do like this one. We like the cast in this one. We like, they start, a couple of things here. It starts showing up maybe unexpectedly in some of those supporting categories or something. Maybe then it can bounce back for a Best Picture nomination. I got to say Glass Onion, Avatar, Black Panther are still some of the more highbrow, kind of more blockbuster type films to look out for. After its performance this weekend and its overall critic rating and stuff, I think The Woman King, I think you have to say, it's a little lower on my list, but I think it's one that we can't immediately dismiss here for still being in there for Best Picture. For the director's lineup, I have kind of a weird, I don't think anybody else has this lineup that I've heard yet. Spielberg I still have in front. The Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I have put Sarah Polley in for Women Talking. I'm putting in Maria Schrader right now for She Said, and I'm sticking by David O. Russell for right now, at least for Amsterdam. So yeah, I don't have, again, just because I didn't like that trailer very well, and I just don't predict good things for this movie right now. Again, I could be totally surprised, and it might be one of the best films of the year. I don't know. But Damien Chazelle, I kicked him out for now. Todd Field for Tar, I would say is possible. Sam Mendes for Empire of Light. Martin McDonagh struggled with, surprisingly, even though he got in almost everywhere else for 3 Billboards, but with Banshees, again, I don't know if the director's branch is going to come back to him on that one. So him I have a little lower on the list. And then, we can still throw in, I think, Alejandro Iñárritu for Bardo, just as a kind of off chance if that one, again, like we were talking about there, if the industry kind of bounces back with that one and says, no, we really, really like that one, then okay, maybe. Okay, for Best Actor, Brendan Fraser still out front for The Whale. Hugh Jackman in second for The Sun. I put Austin Butler back in for Elvis. And then I have Colin Farrell in for Banshees. And then I'm sticking with Christian Bale for Amsterdam for now. So I kicked out Daniel Cacho for Bardo. And who was my other one? Oh, Adam Driver for White Noise. Yeah, that one, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the buzz with that one is going to stick around. So we'll see. So Bill Nye, I think, is easily very close to getting in here. We'll see if Brendan Gleeson is going to run supporting or lead with Colin Farrell. I don't think we have an official announcement yet from Fox Searchlight, or I should say Searchlight Pictures now, on that one. Or if there's a possibility that they'll both run supporting, which I don't see happening. It seems like they've both kind of have that kind of lead role. But we'll see. Otherwise, who else? Timothée Chalamet maybe for Bones and All, but yeah, that one again, I'm not really sure where else that one's going to find a lot of support. Supporting actor, I have Q Kwan still ahead for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Woody Harrelson I still have in second place for Triangle of Sadness. Ben Whishaw I have now put in for Women Talking. I'm going to stick with Anthony Hopkins for now for Armageddon Time, and then Paul Dano in fifth for The Fabelmans. So the one I removed here was actually De Niro for Amsterdam. Yeah, I want to. That was the one I kind of hedged my bet on a little bit. Where I'm like, let me just okay. I think Judd Hirsch off of the early reviews for Fabelmans, I think did take a big boost here. We'll see if he can land there, which would be okay. Could be the spot where we get those double nominees this year. Could be. Michael Ward for Empire of Light seems his performance and Olivia Colman's did escape some of the criticisms there for the film, the critics that were not fans of the film. Otherwise, I think that's probably about it. Did I skip Best Actress? I think I did. Okay. For Best Actress, I have Olivia Colman. Again, as the placeholder for now, I'm very close to switching that to Cate Blanchett, who I have in a very, 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 very strong second for Tar. Michelle Yeoh, I think, is still in there for third place for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Danielle Deadwyler for Till, I have in there. And in fifth place, I dropped Margot Robbie, and I've put in Ana de Armas for now. But that was before, I think, The Woman King, with the box office and stuff here. So I think Viola Davis is a very, very, very strong sixth place there, for sure. And then you have Causeway, which was one I don't know why I didn't have that on the list there for TIFF, but that one came out with Jennifer Lawrence, and she got some pretty good reviews for it. How did that one do overall here? Rotten Tomatoes, 91%, average rating 6.9 out of 10. But generally the buzz I heard on this one was, Jennifer Lawrence does give her strongest performance probably since arguably Silver Linings, American Hustle type era, somewhere in there. Otherwise, generally, I'm not sure yet if Women Talking, if everybody's just going to run in supporting for that, or if they're going to try to boost one or two of them up into lead actress. We'll see. And Margot Robbie, I would still say she has a chance to be nominated for Babylon for sure. Then for supporting actress, again, Michelle Williams, placeholder, definitely. Jessie Buckley I had in there for a bit, but I took her out before I did the first predictions video, so I have her in now in second place for Women Talking. Claire Foy I have in there for Women Talking as well, so this is where I have the double right now for these categories. And that being said, Claire Foy, remember, did really struggle. She couldn't get that nomination for First Man, even when it felt like everything else was kind of falling apart. It's like she had won, Critics' Choice? One of those. She'd won a prize or something. I thought she had. Or she had, I know she had the not Lifetime Achievement, but one of those awards at Critics' Choice. But I thought she had won a prize for First Man. No, that's for her TV work. That's weird. I thought she had won something for it, but maybe not. Let me see here. Nominated at BAFTA and nominated at Golden Globes, but weird. Okay. I could have sworn that she had won something for it, but one of the televised awards. But yeah, I must have dreamt that or something. Anyways, so we saw her struggle there and miss out on the nomination. But it will, and again, kind of like you could argue their First Man was not one that everybody was seeing. If Women Talking is one that everybody's seeing this year, again, like I argued with Paul Dano, where it's like, yeah, he had a couple contentions in the past there, a couple contenders that he was consistently, everybody was bragging him up on, but he just couldn't break through. The Fabelmans is, again, another one that they will absolutely be seeing, so that could help. Stephanie Hugh or Sue for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I've put in Sadie Sink for The Whale in fifth place. Again, just because I feel like, especially the actors branch, I think is going to go for that film. With Brendan Fraser's lead performance and everything, I think they're going to go for that one. So I've dropped both Vanessa Kirby and Laura Dern from The Sun, and I feel like there was one other one that I dropped. Oh, Jean Smart for Babylon, which she was in the trailer, was she not? Looked like she was in the trailer. Just for a brief second there, but it looked like she had kind of a different role there. Hong Chow, I think, also got some good reviews for The Whale. We'll see if there's kind of a struggle there for one or maybe both of them to get in. Carrie Condon got good reviews for Banshees, but I don't know if that one's going to have a lot of love in the supporting categories there, again, unless Brendan Gleeson goes supporting. Let's see here. Otherwise, I feel like that's probably about it. Okay. Just the two screenplay categories left. For original screenplay, I have Everything Everywhere All at Once as a frontrunner. Fabelmans, Banshees I've now put in. Amsterdam I'm keeping in there. And Babylon I'm putting in there just because I have it as a Best Picture nominee. And Tar I do not currently have as a Best Picture nominee. But I think if I'm eventually switch a couple things out. I might put Tar in instead of either Amsterdam or Babylon, and we'll go from there. Empire of Light I had for a little bit there. I've dropped that one. What else? Bardo I had in there for a little bit. I've dropped that one. And I think that's it for that one. But as far as the other, potential nominees here, Triangle Sadness could be in there. We could see, again, possibly Bardo. Nope. Maybe if it sticks around. And, it feels like that one actually kind of thinned out a little bit. On the adapted side, Women Talking, I had in there for second or third place or something. I bumped that up to number 1 since The Sun has kind of fallen off here. I still have it in second place, but I think She Said, The Whale, and White Noise are my other ones in here. Arguably, The Sun could be actually closer to third, fourth in the re-rankings here. Glass Onion, Living, and Till, I think, are going to be the ones to watch out for here for screenplay. Otherwise, none of the other ones really here I think are going to be a strong, strong bet. Top Gun, I am not looking at as a screenplay nominee. Weird to see it in, close to the top 5 here. I think it's actually, it'd be 8th place. Yeah, it's in the top 10 on Gold Derby right now, which I'm surprised at. I just don't see that one as a huge screenplay, not only accomplishment, just not a real contender there for sure. I mean, I'll be glad with whatever it gets nominated for. I feel like it is one of those Best Picture contenders where you're like, hey, it's a good enough movie, even though I wasn't really high on it. They worked hard on it. All the effects, or not effects work, I'm sorry, all the flight stuff they did, all that stuff, it's like, that's a big accomplishment. And it's a director I really like. Tom Cruise, for the most part, has really knocked it out of the park here in the last 5+ years. And he'll get his nomination. Jerry Bruckheimer, if he gets nominated as a producer on it, it's like he's had a hell of a career, and it'd be really nice to see him get something for it. So don't get me wrong. I mean, everything in the tech category it's going to get for sure. I'm going to be rooting for, but yeah, screenplay, actor, any supporting categories, I'm like, no, it's probably not. Even director, I would say. No, I don't think so. I don't know if I would even say it's a choice word here, but worthy of being nominated. And again, I always say every nomination is earned. It's just, sometimes there's ones that we say, oh, it should have been this, or this, stuff like that. But again, like I always say, don't forget, with every category, every person that's, in that category, they did the work. You sitting at home criticizing them did not. So that's all we can really say about that. All right. I feel like that's it for now. Not sure when the next video will be. Maybe after New York, and maybe we get a little bit of sense of where some of these films are going, like as far as their Golden Globe classifications. That could be an interesting topic, because right now I would say Fabelmans is probably leaning toward drama. Babylon, it looks like it's actually more leaning toward the comedy musical aspect. I would say, again, that's, I just closed everything out here, but we'll see. We'll see if that is maybe a topic of discussion next time. But we got a little ways to go before Globe nominations are coming and SAG nominations are coming and some of those other shows for sure. But all right, keep an eye out. We'll be back next time, and we'll talk about what we want to talk about then.